Good evening. Hello everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. This evening we're just going to continue on from where we left off on Thursday. I got a bit of clearing out and stuff done so we can sort of see the progress a little bit. So I'm going to carry on with this shell and stuff, and then we'll move on to these crabs and things in here. Just a refresh. This is the image that we are producing. It's a original design by Jed Henry. Yeah. Ooh. So whilst I wait for everyone to sort of file in and stuff, I'll just carry on. I do apologise, I'm going to have to turn the block this evening. I want to make sure I get all these nice smooth lines. Hello Nigel, how are you? Hi George, hi John. Hello Martin. How is everyone? Hello Lucy. How was everyone's weekend? Hello Ben. This is going quite quick, this print. We should probably another week or two, and we should be done with this. And hopefully by that point I'll be printing the avatar design properly. finished up the Met Police one yesterday. So I've got the there's a small like embossing plate that goes on the bottom section. There's a small caption on it, so I've got to do those tomorrow morning. And I do that similar to Dave in that how he uses the oil-based ink and a roller and applies it to the embossing plate and then takes the impression with that. So it's always a little bit hairy doing it that way because I sort of only do it once a year, so it's it's a bit of a foreign experience for me. But I'll show off the way that we do the captions and stuff at the end, because it's quite interesting. And I must apologise, a Patreon image for the final design still hasn't been chosen. I was hoping to have that chosen and on a block by now, but it's proven a lot more difficult. I've sort of got this nice set of prints and finding sort of the perfect one to cap the series off with has been a bit of a struggle. Oh yeah, George, I saw your image pasted onto the block. It looks great. You must be excited to get going on the carving now. What Gampy? What weight did you go for, George? Was it the 3 or the 5? Oh, that's great news, George. Yeah, I'm quite impressed that you got the inkjet printer working, George. You obviously have a very good feel for how much moisture you need to put down on the block. Did you use any sort of particularly different method to paste it down? To account for using an inkjet printer? I've been thinking about, sort of inspired by George and his Yoshitoshi block and stuff, and I'd really like to do a a series of Yoshitoshi prints. Some of them, well, the majority of them are just way too many blocks for it to be cost effective in the format that I work with. However, I feel like the greatest part of Yoshitoshi's work is his key blocks and his lines. So it could be really interesting to do a series of Yoshitoshi prints in just the key blocks of his amazing warrior designs, and just sort of do these really, just highlight these really amazing key lines. Oh, I see. So just as you normally would then. Yeah, I always like to have the. I don't know if it's the correct way at all. I always like to have the smooth side pasted down, with the more fibrous side pasted up, because then it's easier to roll the layers away to see the image. Yeah, it could be cool to do a series just highlighting all of Yoshitoshi's amazing key blocks. There is, in fact, actually, I don't know where it's from. I'd have to ask Dave. When I was last over in Tokyo, Dave showed me someone had archived a ton of unused Yoshitoshi hanshtas, so that the actual image that you paste down. And as you would know, so back in the old days, the key image was drawn with a brush onto this Gampi paper that you see here, and then that was pasted directly to the wood, and generally no copies were made, and the image obviously gets destroyed as you're carving, because you're carving away with the paper pasted down to the block and stuff. So it's quite a rare thing to find a intact hanshita, let alone a full set of works for a series. And the series obviously either was put on hold because the publisher didn't like it, or perhaps the money wasn't there to do the series with, so it just got sort of put to one side and ended up somehow being preserved. So there's actually this really great archive of hanshtas, and if I remember correctly, they're all very high resolution scans. That's probably the one, George, then, if it's MFA. That's probably the one. Perhaps that could be really interesting. to take this series of Yoshitoshi prints that were never made and create them. But then is that not a little bit arrogant on my side to take it upon myself to be the one that attempts to produce a series by someone as important and legendary as Yoshitoshi, and think that I could do justice to that? Maybe that is a bit much. Yeah, that's correct, Nigel, yeah. Yeah, I just quite liked the idea of doing some sort of really, really intense carving work and sort of balancing that time that I would be sort of spending on colour blocks and printing the whole thing with carving some like insane key blocks, and really just pushing myself to see how far I can go in terms of that detail and the hair blocks and things like that. Yeah, exactly, Martin. Yeah, I don't get tons and tons of opportunity to do really like those crazy hair blocks on a Yoshitoshi print. Jed is very influenced by Yoshitoshi and stuff. It's just there's not as much of the market now for that type of thing. And it's from the point of view of what me and Jed do, it's not really cost effective to do just single colour blocks and stuff. And conversely, if you're going to go to that level of detail, you want to create a load of colour in the print, and then it makes the prints crazy expensive, and that's sort of not the point of what we're doing here. But from my own sort of personal view of my development, it would be really cool to sort of tackle those blocks. So that's one thing I've never had too much of a chance at, is, well, there's two things, is really traditional calligraphy carving and hair carving. Yeah, that could be right, Nigel. Yeah. Hypothetically, would that be something that you guys would be interested in from the point of view of a Patreon series? I'm going to be there's going to be some light tapping just for a couple of seconds. I'll flip the microphone up out of the way. mean, it could even it would cut out the time tracing and things as well. Because I could virtually just take the design as is, very lightly manipulate it in Photoshop to give a really clear black and white image, and then paste it down and go for it. That'd be really crazy doing it at this size as well. Do some miniature Yoshitoshi designs. Yeah, that's the idea, John. So it would be for a Patreon series. If I were to do such a thing, excuse me, it would be for a Patreon series. So it would be the same price the Patreon prints are. And the Patreon prints currently are relatively simple designs, ranging from just a single block that there was on the first design, all the way up to the five blocks, I think, for the current one that's just been sent out, the Sparrow. And that works because of the size and the just what the image is, works out cost wise pretty well to the time put into the price of the print. So if I were to do something like the Yoshitoshi designs, it would almost certainly have to be just the key blocks, because Yoshitoshi prints are notoriously complex and tons and tons and tons of blocks. So producing something like that for the price point, it's not very cost effective, and I don't want to be messing around with the tiers and stuff. It's going well with the current tiers and stuff of the Patreon subscriptions. So just producing a really insane key block series and counteracting the time, putting the total time taken into just a big carving effort would be really cool. And it would make, yeah, I really would need to do something about carving the hair. Yeah, I feel like I'm sort of talking myself into it here. Well, you guys are the ones that pay for the images. So ultimately, you're all the boss. So if that's something that you guys would want to see, then I will do it. I am beholden to you guys and your wishes. Yeah, I could just have a single payment of like £5,000 and then just make one crazy print. Do like 30 colours. There's also the very realistic point of a lot of those Yoshitoshi designs. I am nowhere near the requisite level to be attempting to produce them in their entirety. A key block and things like that, my carving skill is probably such that I can do an adequate job of that. I can do a pretty good job there. In terms of what it would take to print such an image, I'm a few years away from that just yet. Martin, have I imitated any of the master's works? Yes, so the Patreon series, the current running Patreon series, is one of classical designs of birds from various masters throughout the years. We have a Koryusai design, a Hiroshige design. I'm trying to think what else we have. Is there a Marinobu design? I think there might be. Yeah. So my personal work I do is all reproductive. I don't design. I'm not a designer of prints. All the work you see me carving right now, this very second, is by modern day master. He won't like me saying that, but it's by Jed Henry. And Jed is Dave Ball's long-time collaborator and business partner. And I also work with Jed separate to that. And we've dabbled in reproductive work with Jed stuff as well. We've got a couple of shin hanger designs that we've reproduced, a couple of old Hasui designs. And there's a few more in the works for later on in the year. My camera zoom in. Yes, George. Yeah, so Lucy's working on a bit of a crazy project for the majority of this year, which sort of ties her up and doesn't really allow her to produce anything else. But she will most definitely design a series for us, a 4-print series. Not 100% sure what we would do. I just know very much that I want to try and do justice to her work and try something a bit different. There's not a lot of, if any, sort of classical or traditional Western painting that's ever been translated in that way. Where am I? But yes, the third, I would like it to be the third Patreon series will be done by Lucy, hopefully. Yeah, that's it, Martin. Yeah, it really is. I'm excited for everyone to see what she's working on this year. But as for work that I would be doing with her, please don't expect me to be able to do any of her wild colour fades and gradients and things like that. I'd like to focus on the sort of Morris-esque foliage and things that she does. And any series that we do, I'd very much like to use European pigments where possible, and really keep in with the themes and stuff of what she's doing. Yeah, that'd be that's the only challenge there is finding a way to. I have every confidence that Lucy will produce beautiful images. It's how well I am able to then translate that image into a print that stands alone as its own piece of work and also does justice to her original. This is why I'm thinking more of the Morris type, like floral designs, because there's already a subsection of Japanese prints called Kyohanga, and that's prints made in Kyoto. And you had the sort of new upstarts of Edo, of old Tokyo, that were producing all these images of beautiful geisha and the interesting landscapes of Fuji and the old Tokaido and things like that. Whereas in Kyoto they were much more concerned with recreating and preserving the imagery of textiles and painting, and specifically things like kimono design and stuff like that. And there's some really interesting images that were made in imitation of the that were made in imitation of the kimono patterns, even down to reproducing the effect of thread and stuff like that you would see in the embroidered sections of the kimono. And it's a whole different way of printing. Carving's pretty much the same, because carving's just carving, but the actual printing side of it is quite different. There's a lot of sort of opaque pigments used and things like that make it its own interesting challenge, and it's not necessarily a very well known part of printmaking. A multiple key block diptych or triptych? No, I've done quite a few. The majority of Jed's prints are multiple key blocks. Yeah. So, for example, this print is multiple key blocks. The Avatar one is multiple key blocks. The majority of prints Jed gives me are multiple key blocks. A triptych or a diptych I haven't done yet. I've always wanted to do one. It's something I've always sort of pushed Jed for us to try. It's just a case of how that works, like sales wise, how that would translate and things like that. But it's something I personally would like to tackle. We do have sort of sets of prints that are made as a series, that sort of the intention is that they would be displayed together if people were to collect the entire set, and prints that sort of fit a theme together. But no, like a panoramic image I have not done yet, but it is something one day I will do down the line. I would like to, actually, because we can't get the blocks big enough to do it. But I would like to reproduce a really large sort of Oban scene as a diptych or triptych. Because it's not, once the registration's set, it's just set. It sounds sort of, it sounds like a lot harder process than it would actually be. Because once you have registrations set for one key block, it's going to be the same for every block after that. So you have a master to work from. Yeah, so a Yoshitoshi one like that would be crazy. But yeah, as I was saying, once you've set one block, everything else can just run from that point, regardless of if it's a different block set. And altering registration and stuff's pretty simple. You just take a ton of test prints and get your ruler out and measure by how much you're off by. Now it's slightly different. Obviously it makes it harder if you have say you were to have a gradation in the top section, like those hard Prussian blue gradations you would see on like a Hokusai print, and you want that gradation to match all the way through. That's obviously brings its own challenge, because you have to be able to pull that gradation in to exactly the same point on every print. Oh, I think I know the design, George. But I mean, something like a Yoshitoshi keyblock series could serve in itself as a what do you call a 4-print panorama? So quad tip, I don't know, whatever a 4-print panorama would be. You could sort of add them all together, make it with the intention for them to all be displayed as one. You have a very kind set of students, George. Perhaps that's why I need to start teaching, and then my students can buy me nice prints. That's very kind of them. 30 years. So I have another 27 years to go in my profession. Okay, last 5 minutes. So we made pretty good progress. We got the shell done. Start getting all these crabs and stuff done. I'll finish them off, and then we've got all this nice rocks, nice fun line work to run through here on Thursday. But where's a test? That's a test. That's a test one. Yeah. So I'm sure this is just a test. It's a bit scrappy, isn't it? There's a bit of bark and stuff left down in there. Anyway, so I'm sure people have seen Dave doing this on 43 years. Congratulations, George. So I'm sure everyone has seen Dave doing similar things on his stream, but we have a small caption that sits in the base of the print here, and tetraptic, quadriptic. I like the first one. The first one sounds better. I just can't. My pronunciation is awful, so I'll say quadriptych. A quadriptych. I'll remember that. But yeah, anyway, so we have the embossing block and exactly the same as a woodblock print pasted down. It's in reverse, so when it prints, it will print in the correct orientation. And I have the registration and stuff set up. So how we do this is we take our roller, our small roller with some oil-based ink on, place the print in its registration, take the baron, across the back, and it embosses and prints nice solid flat black type across there. We could carve it. The issue with carving it is you're carving tiny little Western letters, which are all of them are rounded and really awkward to carve. And yeah, it's just easier to do it this way. This is the way that Dave suggested that we do it, and we sort of just followed his example in doing that as well. But that's my job tomorrow. The trick is, and you can see here, all the areas that I've printed black onto that then picks up. But the trick is to use a little bit of a drying agent in the oil, mixed in with the oil-based, a drying medium with the oil-based ink that means we don't have to wait days for it to dry properly before we send it off. Because trying to stack and hang up 50-something prints done like that is when you've only got a single room like I do, it's not really very, it's a bit awkward to try and do it. But so that's my job tomorrow, and then continuing on with the avatar key blocks. But that's going to be it for this evening. I'll be back on Thursday. We'll continue on carving through the rocks and things like that, and hopefully I will have a fourth Patreon image to show you guys, and hopefully it's something everyone likes. I've got a few in mind. It's just sort of narrowing it down and getting a final decision made. Stop procrastinating. But thank you everyone for joining this evening and sticking with me as always. Everyone have a great week, a great start to the week, and stay safe and take care. I will see you all again on Thursday. Thank you.